When it comes to online reviews, there are the usual suspects. The person who yells at you through their keyboard. The guy who gives you 1 star because he got a parking ticket outside your office. Oh, and of course, the lady who wasn't 100% satisfied with the paint color on your walls. The world of online reviews isn't always fair. And chances are, if you're not actively asking customers to review your business, you're probably going to get more bad than good. That's why there's Podium. Podium has helped thousands of businesses use text messaging to collect hundreds of customer reviews on the sites that matter most. The best part is, it's super easy. It takes 30 seconds or less for your customer to leave a review on their phone, which is proven to get you a lot more reviews. To see a free demo and learn how Podium can help your business's online reputation, visit podium.com/podcast or call 1-833-276-3486 today. Mention this ad for additional savings.
Welcome to the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, where we don't take from insurance companies. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan Comstock and Mr. Ben Tuine.
All right, here we go. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, the Say No to PPO series. I am your co-host today, Jordan Comstock. I got our other co-host, Ben Tuine, on the line. Ben, what's up, dog?
Hey, what's up, Jordan? Oh, man, I am sunburnt beyond belief.
Sunburnt from Disney World?
Well, we went to Disney for, I think, 6 days, and then we went to Sarasota and spent some time on the beach, Siesta Keys.
Dude, living it up.
Nobody really knows that, you know, Polynesians, we live in the sun. We grew up on the islands, but we still get sunburned. But
yeah, that's awesome. No, it sounds like you had a good time. How long were you gone? A week?
We were gone for about 12 days.
12 days, yeah. That sounds awesome, man. Yeah. In Disney World. That's
I've
never been there. I need to go. I've only go to Disneyland.
Be prepared, though. When you go, you're going to be addicted. And it's a good kind of addiction, you know? It's an expensive addiction, but...
Expensive. Yeah, I already got lots of expensive addictions. Not drugs or anything, but guitars. Guitars, a lot of guitars. I can't stop buying them.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So today we have an awesome guest on our show. We have Penny Reed is her name, and I met Penny. Penny, where did we meet? I can't remember where we met. Was it through ADMC?
I believe we met, yes, it was through ADMC. So we met on Facebook, which actually sounds a little funny, not on a dating site or anything.
No dating sites, no.
Because we're both happily married to other people.
Yes.
Yeah. So we met there, and then I had you on the Growing Your Dental Business podcast, which the episode has not even hit the airwaves yet. So that was recent, and then we met face to face at SCN this past weekend.
Yeah, SCN down in Anaheim, California was an awesome conference. Got to meet a lot of the dental speakers, which, Penny, you are a speaker, and you have a book called Growing Your Dental Practice, correct? Did I say that?
Well, it's close. Growing Your Dental Business, because at the time, growingyourdentalpractice.com was not available, and I wanted it all to match. But now I have the other one, but I'm not changing the name of the book. But same thing, right? So growing your dental business, focusing on what we can do to continue to move the practice forward and give a clear picture, get the team on board, and excited about constantly improving.
Super cool. So tell our audience, how did you get involved in dentistry, and how did you get involved in being a coach and speaker in the dental industry?
Well, so if you had ever told me that I would be working in the dental industry, I would have laughed, because I had a lot of cavities as a kid, and the dentist was my least favorite place to go, even though my uncle was a dentist, and I started...
Wow, sounds like you, Ben.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, I had a lot. I think one day I had 10 or 12 fillings. We used to drive to my uncle's, aunt and uncle's, and stay with them. And my uncle was an awesome dentist. That was the main reason that we went there. But, it's like, hey, it's a Saturday. Let's see how many fillings we can do. So, so I never would have gone into that. I actually got a degree in management, was not a really highly motivated college student, didn't know what I wanted to be a teacher and a coach, but that's a whole nother story. And it's like, well, I don't know what to do. I think I'll get a business degree in management. How hard can that be? Not realizing that meant getting people to do things that you want them to do, even when they don't really want to. So right out of college, went to college in Searcy, Arkansas, which, 500 points to anyone listening to this later that knows where that is or practices there. A little school called Harding University. And we were a Walton Scholar school. So basically what that meant was any business student got an interview with a little company called Walmart. And I was hired on to be an IT manager for their distribution center, and then worked in the store for a bit. Learned a lot about Walmart. I can tell you, I'm sure a lot of things have changed, but it was really beneficial from the distribution standpoint to see, because that's really how all businesses grow, right? Is whether it's a marketing message distribution. But I had moved away. It's hard to take a girl from the South out of her hometown, even if you keep her in the South. So moved back to Memphis and bumped into my dentist at church. And his wife had coached me in several sports. I was a terrible athlete, but I was highly committed. So she saw that I was very dedicated and said, hey, after I'd been cut from several sports, come out for track. We don't cut anybody from track. So I wound up playing several sports and having her as a coach, and just really love their family. So my dentist asked me to come and be his office manager. And this is probably my most overused joke. I say, well, I don't really know anything about running a dental practice. And he said, well, that's okay. I've been running one for about 11 years, and I'm not really sure that I know how to run one either, right? I don't have much more training about how to run one than you do. So I came to work for him. That was 1992. And then I'd been working there about 6 months, and he was great at tracking his numbers. But back then, I think Microsoft Excel was invented, but it wasn't really that common.
Rarely used,
We had a DOS-based.
Oh, I love DOS-based systems. They're the best.
They aren't they? We had a DOS-based Easy Dental. Of course, we graduated to Windows-based before I left.
Nice.
But he showed me his numbers, and I thought, wow, the practice was growing. His income had started to grow. The expenses, of course, were growing like crazy, but things had really leveled off as far as the net income. And these people were like family for me. So I was like, we got to fix this. And so we just tried harder. And after a couple of months, I said, are there other people that know how to do this? How to grow practices? And we wound up hiring a consulting group, and I got the bug. I thought, wow, I'm going to change the world. Everyone wants to hire a dental consultant. That's what I thought. Some people do. But I started on that path in 94, replaced myself in his office, had to replace myself with two people, not because I was so awesome, but because the practice had grown. So, but it does sound good, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it sounds really great. So I've learned a lot. I have a lot of sympathy for my first, I would say the clients that I had in the first couple of years when I thought I knew everything and really didn't know a whole lot, but their practices grew. So I guess that's what really matters. But yeah, that's how I got started in this crazy business, the business of dentistry, and I love it.
It's so amazing. I bet when you started back in 1992 and then moving into 1994, as you started to get these ideas about expanding, about how much how the dental industry was so fragmented back then, and today how much fragmented it still is. There's just so much opportunity. Speaking of which, your book, Growing Your Dental Business, what inspired you to put that together?
Well, I had wanted to write a book. It's also, funny. I wanted to write a book in 94. I don't know what I would have written about, right? But back when I thought I knew everything. But what really inspired me to write it was the book that I wished I'd had a book. I remember asking my dentist, what do you have to show me how to grow practices? And he handed me this giant red book. I think it was all on perio. And I remember I took it home and flipped through it, and I'm like, ooh, it wasn't very helpful. And I've become great friends over the last couple of years with Linda Miles. And even though I would like to say that I'm too young to have been invited on the Golden Girls of Dentistry cruise, just returned from that and was doing a little research before I gave a presentation there and realized that back in the early 90s, there actually were some books on practice management, and she had one. I just didn't have it. So it was partly that. And then in about 2007, 2008, I began to see a lot of my clients' practices, dentists that I would talk to at different meetings. I would say a lot of them hit the wall. I think with what happened with the real estate market and the growth of the PPO plans, the same things that we did and that I even did as a consultant didn't seem to work as well. I used to be able to go in and have an office raise their fees, teach them a thing or two about how to schedule differently, and bam, they'd be up 20, 30%. Or in the South, as we like to say, growing a practice, I would say it's like falling off the back of a truck. It was pretty easy. And so I thought I either need to change what I'm doing because I was getting frustrated, or I need to change my message. And so I began to put together the thought process. Now, the book didn't come out until 2015, but that was really when my message began to change. And as the years evolved, I began to have old new clients. So for Ben, for you, that would be a patient that's come to you, and then for whatever reason they left, whether it was an insurance plan or they moved away and then they came back, right? So they're a new patient, but Gotcha. They had been with you before.
Yeah.
And the best way, without naming any names, because this was just a common thread for them, as well as for dentists that had been in practice, let's say at least 10 or 15 years, that there was this bitterness that I was picking up on, right? Because, hey, it used to be easier. And in some ways it did, right? The DOS-based thing was not easier. But as far as when people weren't on the PPOs, and I have a little bit of a story later because we were actually on something much worse than a PPO, but I'll share that with you later on in the session. Yeah. But I thought, okay, there are some things that we can't change. It brought to mind, and I've never been to rehab. I've never been through the 12-step program as an addict, but I'm very familiar with that whole process and the serenity prayer, right? Grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it hit me during a phone call with an office manager of a previous client, which she's on. And this is what you do, Ben, right? It's like, okay, well, can you help us raise our fees? Well, what she's saying is, can you help us get our full fee from these PPO plans? And I'm like, wow, I wish I could. If I did, I would work from the beach. I'd be sipping out of a coconut right now. So I said, I know there are companies that can help you with that part, but I think the biggest thing of what I'm hearing is you guys are paralyzed because you're so focused, you're so wrapped up in all that bitter, it was just like a great, like Pigpen in the Peanuts, right? It was this aura of bitterness, like a cloud hanging over them. And so even the things that they could do, they were mentally and emotionally using so much RAM, being chapped. I was about to say something that's a family show, but I know some of you listen to this part. So, just being so irritated. And I thought, okay, what can we smartly do, even if we don't have a budget to do a lot of marketing, or maybe you're the type of practice that doesn't work with a coach, which I have a coach. I'm a huge believer in consulting and coaching. So that was when I really began to refine the message to say, okay, there are 5 different areas that we can focus on to grow a practice. And there's actually a recipe. If you love math, you'll love the book. If you don't love math, then suffer through the first couple of chapters and you'll love the rest of the book, where you can grow a practice, at least one that has a recare department. And there's ways to benefit if you don't from some of those tools. But you can grow a practice by 25% without really spending that much more out of pocket. So that's the message. And my team, when they proofread it, they said, are you sure you want to publish this book? Like, why would anybody hire you? And I was like, wow, I appreciate that. I said, but some will read the book and they won't work with me, and others will read the book and they'll say, wow, that's what I want to do. And maybe we'll do a telephone coaching session, right? Or maybe we'll work together. But was really the inspiration is, let's set aside the things that we can't change. And I love what you guys are doing with the loyalty programs, because even though that's not part of my book, it should have been part of my book. It really is a great avenue. That's just something that we can change. So that's what Spark did. It came out in 2015, and I am super excited, especially to provide for the business owners and the office managers. Here's a blueprint. It doesn't tell you everything, but there's a way to grow your practice, and there's some methods in there that, again, if you're a bootstrapper, you don't even need somebody like me.
No, I like your approach.
Cool. I love it.
I think we have a similar approach. We consider ourselves open books too. We just write it all down, and whenever we give presentations, we give everything. We just open it up and lay it all out, and people are like, you're giving out way too much information. And I get it. There can be a lot of people, like what you said, that'll try to do it on their own, or only require limited support from you. But in the end, it provides a great deal of credibility to those that are listening to you or reading your book, when they see what you're talking about. And I think the industry needs that. There's just so much that needs to be improved, especially when we're dealing with insurance carriers, and that crazy insurance mentality that many practices suffer from. Just the culture of being sucked into the PPO world or the HMO world. And to me, I think it's like it's like an addiction or a disease, in practices, and people, they hate it. They practice miserably, but knowing that it's there, and it's there for some of them, they believe it's there to stay. But I have some different thoughts about that. But anyway, so for your book, if a listener is interested in purchasing the book, can they find it online somewhere?
Yes. So if you want a digital copy, you can get that at Amazon.com, and also in the iTunes store on iBooks. And I will tell you what I'll do for your listeners. If they go to my website, pennyreed.com, and there's a form that you see right there to the right of the homepage where you can reach out, connect, schedule a coffee talk. So I will do a complimentary coaching call, no sales pitch, for any of your listeners. And I will also, if they'll put a note in there, I will send them a copy of my book. I would ask that they would pay, it's a $20 book. So I would ask that they would pay shipping and handling, which I believe is $7.95. So, they'll have to mention this in the note. So I'll send them the book for free. They'll just need to cover the $7.95 shipping and handling. Because again, I think this message, every practice owner, every office manager needs to hear the message, because it works. It works no matter the size of the practice, whether it's a $500,000 a year practice, a larger organization that's doing $20 million a year. If you apply it as far as the basic math, it really can get the team focused and teach them measurable ways that they can impact that change. So I'm happy to do that for you guys.
I love that. I'm on Amazon right now, and the reviews of your book are pretty amazing. One person said, amazing book, right, regardless of what phase of your dental practice is going through. This book is a must read. So many practical gems in this book. So this is awesome. So we'll post the link to the Amazon. Amazon link. We'll post it in the show notes for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful.
Awesome. So Penny, I'm curious, what trends do you see in dental insurance and doctor participation?
Well, so first I would like to say there are experts in dental insurance out there, and I'm not one, right? So I think in some ways that's beneficial for me, because I'm not going by the latest statistic that I read. I'm going more by what I'm watching and seeing and sensing. Mm-hmm. And now I do have a friend in a smaller dental insurance company in Indiana, right? So it's okay. Not a national company, but every now and then I'm able to get insights from her. And the fastest growing product that they have is the individual plan. Okay. And I don't know if you guys are hearing that as well. In other words, let's say I'm Joe consumer, I'm Joe patient, or Jane, right? I don't really sound like Joe. I might sound more like Jane. And I want dental insurance. And so I'm looking for dental insurance and I'm shopping that on my own. And I think I'm seeing that more on the other end in the dental offices because I'm watching these insurance coordinators tear their hair out because there's more groups than there used to be, right? That part will continue to get more confusing. But what that tells me, and I'm kind of jumping ahead here as far as my thoughts on the loyalty plans, is if individuals are seeking those types of plans, they would very well be seeking a loyalty or a membership plan. That's the same target market for that.
Absolutely.
I do still work with many clients, not as many, but again, I'm seeing that shift begin to happen, that are fee for service, that have never participated in a plan. And I am harder on them than I am on my other clients when it comes to the marketing and the culture of the practice and the experience, because I'm like, don't think that this can't change. This can change in a heartbeat. Yeah. And, you've really got to stay focused and provide the exceptional experience, have awesome communication, have the marketing in place. And of course, the loyalty plan is a huge part of that. And I'm also seeing for those offices that I work with that have participated in plans, we're able to reduce the plan participation, but it happens over time. I think one of the biggest mistakes we can make is just deciding, right, making the emotional decision to do it. Yeah. I'm done. I mean, that's what usually happens, right? It's like, I am so done with these PPOs. And then they make a knee-jerk reaction without a plan in place or without having a runway. But I'm definitely seeing more offices that at least participate in one or two. And I know you, Ben, you probably really have a different perspective than I do on that. I'd rather see them only participate in one or two than not, than have a ton of open chair time. And I definitely don't want them participating in a ton of them. I would even love to hear some of your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think the struggle with PPO participation, especially when you want to go out of network, is that most practices, and it is an entire team effort. It's just not one person, in my opinion.
Totally.
And when the doctor wants to drop a plan and they're just so emotional about it, like what you see here in the state of Washington, Premera, so one of the Blue Cross plans, there's Premera and Blue Cross up in Washington. Premera just reduced rates they made an announcement that they're going to be reducing their fees by 15% effective July 1. And some doctors are crunching the numbers, realizing that 15% reduction in fees is going to cost them about 40% of their take-home income. And so they make a knee-jerk reaction and say, I'm just going to get out of this right away without even preparing. I think you can prepare to go out of network effectively. You'll have some attrition, but what I typically see is when a doctor just rips the Band-Aid off and they go out of network, they could lose up to 40 to 50% of those patients if they don't have a plan, if they don't understand the out-of-network game with that particular company. The biggest mistake I see with many is that they say, I'm out of network with MetLife. I can drop Premera, no problem. And they realize that Premera's allowed amounts when you're out of network are much less than MetLife. The benefit coverage is much less. The Premera doesn't accept assignment of benefit, meaning they'll start to send the checks and the EOBs to the patient, not to the doctor. And when you're not prepared for that, you start to freak out and start to realize, whoa, we just, what did we just do? And you don't know how to address the patient concerns and the questions and all that. And so I think there should be a measured approach, or at least a lot of preparation. And I like what you talk about, Penny, with culture, because I think it has a lot to do with that.
It really does.
And one of the concerns that I see with team members, the non-dentist, those that practice either clinical or in management up front, is that a lot of them they're so glued and stuck to the fact that if I can't talk about in-network terms, I am just not going to make the patient happy. So we had a client in around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they dropped MetLife about a year ago. And they trained the team on scripts and everything, and they recorded every call. And 3 months later, like, why is our MetLife attrition? I mean, it seems like we're seeing fewer and fewer MetLife patients. So they started to listen to the recordings, and their front office person was telling the patients to go elsewhere, saying we're not in network
my
anymore.
Gosh.
So you need to go somewhere else. And they were like, this is not what we trained them to do. And when they sat down with that team member and they said, why did you say that? Why are you telling the patients to go elsewhere? And she's like, well, if I were them, I would want to go in network, and you kind of have to get the team to understand that it's, when you go out of network, what is your reason? Like, why are you going out of network? And how do you convince everybody in the office of the why? And, my reason is you're protecting the financial integrity of quality care. And
absolutely.
Everybody in the office is part of that quality care. If you file insurance, if you pre-auth a benefit, no matter what your position is in the practice, if you don't believe that, it seems like practices just struggle, when not everybody's brought on board. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, Penny, in terms of the culture, because, I don't deal in day-to-day practice management, but I observe from afar. And when practices do need to go out of network, we either refer them to our good friend Bill Rossi or others that are experts at that. And we just hear the difference, that the doctors say, yeah, we followed the process and our culture changed and everybody was bought in and we had a 5% attrition. And then the others that say we just couldn't rally our team and we lost 40% of the patients, and I know that there's a lot involved in terms of preparing for dropping a PPO, but I would never advise anybody just to do it, just to send the termination letter, and let's see what happens. Let's throw it at the wall, see if it sticks. That never works out well.
I think I spoke to a practice a couple of weeks ago. They called me and they're like, we just pulled the plug right on all the PPOs and we're just going to figure it out. I'm like, oh wow, okay. And they're like, we desperately want to implement a membership program to help with that. I'm like, yeah, you probably should have planned a little bit before you pulled the plug on all the PPOs. You definitely have to have a good strategy.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, to start with your part of the question, and again, the longer I do this, I'm about to enter my 25th year, the more I realize that I'm continuously learning. In other words, it's like,
totally.
Okay, for everything I've learned, it seems like everything I don't know has doubled. But when I look at the patterns of clients that I've worked with or just dentists that I know that I've, you can see without looking at the numbers, you see the fruits of practices that are doing well. I mean, the doctor's not as stressed. I mean, there's always stress when you own a business. The practice is growing. There's not a lot of turnover. Those are the fruits that we're looking for. And they're able to, keep at least most of the PPO plans at bay, even though they're participating with some. And so I'm always asking myself, what's the difference? What's the essence? What's this office or what do these offices have? And then these others just aren't getting it. And it really comes down to the culture, the personality of the practice, how we get things done. And so that's really become, even though I'm the growing your dental business gal, I think I'm just as equally, the other half of my brain is looking at, okay, if culture were a petri dish, right? And I'm trying to put context to this so that everyone can have a clearer picture of it. And our beliefs, values, attitudes, and behaviors are in there. It doesn't take much of a bad seed or, if we're using scientific terms, an infection, bacteria, virus. If something is in there and it's allowed to grow so that it's not, there are practices that participate in plans. I have a lot of offices that do. It doesn't mean that they're not great practices, but if we're aiming to get away from that, yet all of those beliefs haven't changed, we can't win, right? There's not enough of an antibiotic. Boom cloud can't save you,
nope.
Right? If the team's not on board, a consultant can't save you if the team is not on board. So it really has to start with the beliefs and the mindset. And what I love about the membership and the loyalty plan is now there's a choice. Right? Before it was, it was like, well, maybe you need to drop your insurance. But there's a choice. Hey, here's an alternative. And I would love to speak to a couple of things that you touched on. I think, number one, you've got to know your numbers, even if you're not a numbers person. The Mary Chapin Carpenter song, the stars may lie, but the numbers never do, right? You've
Totally.
got to know them. You also have to be cognizant of how much open chair time you have. if you've got a ton of open chair time and you're participating with plans and then you decide to drop the plans without putting the right things in place, you're going to have more open chair time, right? So we want to be smart about it. And then we do it too quickly. There's not a runway in place. And I would love to share with you is, sometimes we're successful by plan and sometimes we're successful by accident. The story that I'm going to tell you is, I think, was a big win that I had as an office manager. And I'm going to say, if there were anyone I could give credit to, was my dentist, and the fact that he is such a great people person, and I guess he just got this part of it. So we were on a DMO. I don't even know how many of those there are in existence anymore. But basically, for those of you that are thinking, what's a DMO?
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, we had a number of patients that were signed up under my doctor as their dentist, and this was a plan through Prudential. It was called PruCare. Isn't that cute? I probably shouldn't name them. But, as far as the DMO went, I think it was a good one, right? I mean, it was not that it was a bad DMO. It's just that the DMO model for our type of practice was horrible. You make money with the DMO when your patients don't come in.
Right.
And so his wife, as I mentioned before, taught at a small private school. These teachers had that plan. And if you're hoping for low utilization, not these folks. They came in twice a year. Their kids came in twice a year. They got sealants on every two. They did all of it.
Boy.
So we got 0 for the hygiene visits. We got 0 for sealants and fillings. I think the patient had to pay a 20% copay on root canals and 50% on crowns. And then we got maybe $4 per covered patient per month. Wow. That just came every month. Maybe $4. Okay. So we had 1 chair of hygiene pretty much every day. We had 2 chairs of hygiene, and one of them was 80% PruCare every day. And I'm looking at this, and it's like, and it was after we began to work with the consulting group, and we would set these goals, and it's like, well, what about all these patients, right? We would have produced $1,000, but in essence, we got 0. Going back to, again, I guess I'm just a kid, right? I'm thinking about the Peanuts, the Halloween episode where all the other kids are like, I got gum, I got a sucker. And Charlie Brown looks in his bag, I got a rock. I mean, that was pretty much what happened, right? We worked hard, we felt great, we were taking care of people, we got a rock. So
got a rock.
So we did our homework, and this particular school actually offered another dental plan, but hardly anybody was on it. They offered Delta Dental, which at the time, you didn't have as many PPO providers with them. I mean, we were able to, and they still paid us even though we were out of network. So this process was probably a 9 to 12 month process. We did our homework. We found out what the options were. Yes, it cost the employee more, it cost the patient more to go with the other plan, but we had face-to-face conversations once we got our act together, right? To talk to them about, hey, effective, 9 months from now, we're not going to be in network with the DMO, but you can still come here. And so it happened face to face or voice to voice with almost everyone. We told them what the options were, which an in-house membership plan could easily fit hey, you may not have that, but here's what we have as an option, something that we'd like for you to think about because we love you and we want to keep being, your dental office. Of the 900 and something individuals that were on that plan, when we actually made the switch, I think we lost 4 families. That was it.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And this was, this was like it back, not even in the mid 90s. And I don't think we even really were able to wrap our brain around how amazing that was. Did a letter go out? Yes. But by the time the letter went out to the patients, we were everybody pretty much already knew. It was more of a confirming what it was that we were doing. So, I know if it could be done then on something we're talking, that's a huge difference for those patients to go from paying 0 to now they're having to pay. And, and there were several conversations I would have to sit down with them. Yes, in the past, you didn't have to pay anything out of pocket for sealants, but here's why they're so important. And, but it started with our beliefs, our mindset, and a plan. And I would say you would want to have a runway. And I do this now with my clients. I'm like, look, I hear you in that you're done. All right. You're crazy if you try to do it in less than 6 months, because you want at least one full cycle of hygiene coming in the office. But ideally a 9-month plan, and the marketing, not only with the loyalty plans and marketing those, but we've got to up our game. If you don't have a website, or if it's out of date, if you don't have a social media presence, patients stay with you because of the relationship.
Totally.
They want to see you, and social media is a great way to do that, where you're staying present and in front of them. So, definitely I see, in some areas, is it going to be incredibly difficult to get rid of all of the plans? Some areas it will be more difficult than others, but we can't continue to stay as dependent as we are, because the example you gave, Ben, these insurance, mama ain't coming. Right. I mean, I used to say that more a long time ago. I can remember being a kid and being in the other end of the house and being afraid and doing the whole mama. And, she'd come in there. What do you need? Will you turn the light on? Like, it was like right next to me. I could have turned it on. Or, in the kitchen, will you, make me some lemonade? It's not going to get better. Right. So, having been in Walmart, that's Walmart has made its claim to fame. It's the low price leader. They conquered the world because of their distribution network, moving as many goods as possible at the lowest rate possible. Is that how most dentists want to practice? And so I see it heading more and more that way. And I do work with clients on efficiency and being flexible and quick. And I have a lot of really successful offices that participate in plans, but they're working their tail off.
Yeah. Yeah. In this day and age, I mean, the industry has evolved so much since the 1990s, as you probably, between the three of us, best.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And in this day and age, I just firmly believe that more and more doctors are going to need coaches more than ever these days. People that can come in
I strongly agree.
with perspective, as well as experience in working with successful practices and carrying those successes over to new clients. Just like any professional basketball player or football player, they have regular coaches that coach them on the field, but they also have personal mentors that coach them and teach them how to run, how to step. And these are multi-million-dollar contracts that these players get. In the dental practice, it's no different. This day and age where insurance is getting tighter and tighter and less expensive for patients to purchase, which means that it's going to pay out less and less to the doctors. I mean, heck, a couple of weeks ago, I was involved in a conversation with a broker that wanted 50% commissions from a dental premium. And I'm thinking,
wow.
Are you kidding me? You want 50% for doing just for introducing the business? The client?
Yeah.
Sign me up for that job.
I know.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm in the wrong business. You got 50% going to the broker, and most of the times it's between 15 and 20, but this broker was getting 50%. And then and now you have maybe $20 that goes towards paying dental benefits, and then you have insurance overhead, administration, adjudication, and all of that.
Holy smokes! How does that work?
Yeah, what's left off of $20? What's left to pay a doctor, for a $1,500 annual max that has 100% coverage on preventative, 80 on minor, 50 on major? I just don't understand.
I tell you what they're getting is they're opening their bag and they got a rock. That's what they're getting.
They got a bunch of scorpions.
Like Charlie Brown.
A bunch of scorpions. Yeah. And underneath that rock is the scorpion, Ben. Yeah.
Holy smokes, I spoke to somebody just a week ago. He has a broker that has 100,000 lives, people that are under management, and they use a Blue Cross Blue Shield plan in close to where you're at, Penny. And this broker just took 45 of his closest friends on a private jet, and they flew to a private island, and they spent a week. You look at where the money goes for dental premiums, for dental insurance, and it's certainly not going to the doctors. So there's a lot that needs to change. Yeah, and that's the problem in the dental industry, is that the doctors really don't know where the money's going when it comes to dental insurance. They don't get much of it. And then the brokers have no idea what the challenges the doctors are facing, when it comes to dental insurance. because of the lack of financial resources to support good quality care,
Right.
And so I like what you're doing, Penny. I think your focus on the culture and, the management related issues in the practice to become more efficient is just so vital. It's more important today than it has ever been, in my opinion, in dentistry, just because of the squeeze that we feel. You have to not necessarily be creative, but you just have to be smart about how you do business in dentistry these days.
Well, absolutely. And I think from the culture and coaching piece, and again, I wanted to be a coach, and my dad, I love my dad. He passed away about 12 years ago. I also loved the fact that he was going to pay for me to go to college. And he said, well, I'm going to pay for you to go to college, but I will not pay for you to be a teacher and a coach. I'm like, well, you've got to go to college to be a teacher. So, that was, again, I was coachable. I got my management degree and I found a way to be a teacher and a coach anyway. Right. My little rebellious spirit. But I think the biggest challenges that we face, the wolf that's at the door, we think it's the insurance company, and that is partly true. But part of my passion now is working to train up within the practice, not only the doctor at some level as a coach, but we're seeing more and more practices have office managers, they have clinical directors, and they're very great technicians, right? It's like the E-Myth all over again, but they don't know how to coach. They know how to lead by example, right? I work harder than you, or I pick up the slack for everybody else in my department. That's not what a leader and a manager does.
Nope.
So I'm working with the more of the leaders, especially in the larger practices with the multiple locations, they need coaching skills. Who teaches that? I didn't learn that in college, right? I learned it by taking courses and practicing. Sorry for those of you that maybe I didn't practice well on, but it's a process, and I think that's part of the secret, along with the loyalty plans. Is if we're going to protect those beliefs, values, attitudes, and behaviors, it can't be only the business owner doing that. We've got to empower the leaders on our team to be able to not only adopt that mindset, but to coach the rest of the team along. They've got to have the skill set to do that. And it's not easy, right? But it starts with learning how to get buy-in, right? And how to have these great feedback conversations where people don't crumble and fall apart when we say things to them. They're able to go, okay, yeah, I get that. Yeah, like the recorded phone calls with that team member. I don't know how that story turned out, but if someone's willing to be coachable, right? If they're willing to look at things and, you know what, you're right, I dropped the ball, work with me. I'm struggling here. I want to do better at that. But often, if we don't have those coaching skills, if we don't get to the whole point of, if they haven't bought in, I don't care how many times you record the call or sit down with them, right? They need to go be on somebody's team that participates with plans in that scenario. So sorry, I went off on a little tangent. How it is.
No, it's great.
When someone hits the chord of something that you're inspired about.
Totally. Awesome. Well, I think this has been an awesome episode and very beneficial for our listeners. Penny, any last thoughts?
No, you know what? I am honored to be here. When there are two or more people gathered in the name of growing their dental practice, I always want to be there. And I feel like I'm among family because you apparently love the mouse, Mickey Mouse, as much as I do. So, you're my brothers from other mothers.
That's right.
Totally.
Pixie dust all the way. Well, hey, if check out Penny's website, pennyreed.com. We're going to post that website in the show notes, as well as a link to where to purchase her book on Amazon. But Penny, we really thank you. We want to extend the thanks and appreciation to you for being on the show today and sharing a lot of valuable pearls about everything, about your book, about participation with insurance, about culture. Again, I just feel like people, dental practices and dental professionals, whether it be a doctor owners or leaders, and other management capacities in dental practices, I just feel like they need coaches like you more than ever these days, because you're right, it is getting worse. Premier Blue Cross is lowering fees in Washington. Delta is starting to consider to lower fees in multiple states in the United States, and that as that trend continues, we just need to be more efficient in the way we do business and find ways to be less dependent on insurance, find ways to build membership plans. So Penny, thank you so much. Yeah, it was great. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much, Ben and Jordan. And Ben, hopefully I'll see you. Who knows? I may bump into you getting in line for the mine train one day.
There you go. or the haunted house.
Awesome.
Haven't done the haunted house yet. Maybe in the future I will.
Awesome.
Thank you,
awesome.
Penny.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, take care.